So, welcome to the Vision to Success Digital Marketing Workshop. These are free regular marketing workshops that are designed to help you take your vision and hopefully realize it into a successful business. So the overall structure for the next hour will be a very short introduction as to who we are and what the Vision to Success is all about. Then we've got an educational presentation on an aspect of marketing. Today it's going to be LinkedIn. From April towards the end, so this series has got a few more bits to go. We've got email marketing and measuring your performance of your digital marketing as the last two of this series. And then after Easter, on the 27th, we'll have a mixture of guest speakers talking about a subject specialised in their specialism. And then we've also launched an app which to help you do your digital marketing strategy. There's going to be a free version and a paid-for version, and the free version we're going to use. So every 2 weeks I'm going to be doing. Every 4 weeks I'm going to be doing that, and every 2 weeks you're going to have an alternate guest speaker. Because I really want to. Digital marketing is very. There's a lot of areas to it, a lot of facets, and I sometimes think that people are not aware of all the things that you can do with it, and so we want to make that right. So there'll be. I've got the chat box open. So if you've got any questions that arise during the presentation, please feel free to put them. I can see the questions coming up. Any questions from LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, they will come through to, I think, a product called Restream, which we're using to do the live stream. And please ask questions. And so we'll take questions from the live feeds as well. And then we'll open the floor to any questions and then a discussion about general marketing in general. For those of you who've got your video switched on, I'll be asking you what your actions are. So if you want to participate, please keep your video on. We are live streaming, we are recording, and this recording will go on the website. So if you don't want your face to be seen, then obviously knock your video off. And yeah, so let's crack on. So. As an agency, I work as a coach, and the business works as an agency. We generate most of our business through LinkedIn, and we're not talking about that spammy stuff. We're talking about real conversations with real people online. So, just for those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm a business and digital coach. I've been that for 20 plus years, worked with over 500 plus businesses. Charlie joined me 6 years ago to grow the agency. We're joined by Rachel Eglin today, who's our sales and marketing manager, and she'll no doubt be having conversations with you, at some point if you want any further help, etc. I've been working with technology since 1984, so the days of punch cards and where computers fill that you now have fill the complete room. And been on LinkedIn a long time, part of the first million users group, and I've got 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. So kind of been there and done it. So yeah, if you're running speaker view during the presentation and then gallery view during the interactive sessions, I do want these sessions to be interactive. Please feel free to ask questions and get involved. Certainly when the presentation part's ended, and this is going to be true of any of the workshops going forwards. Please ask any questions through chat. It's on my right hand side here, so I can see it coming up, and then Rachel will pop stuff in as well. From the LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and just switch off your video if you don't want to be recording. So why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Well, given all the stuff that's happening around us and poor old Ukraine, we need to be more interconnected. We need to be more collaborative. and all this war nonsense. But things are getting more competitive out there in the digital space. It is getting a lot more complex. Rachel and I were working on a tool this morning called Candy, and the new playing with the updated version of HubSpot CRM, and linking that through to website activity. So there's a lot more that we're going to be talking about, in future presentations. I'm going to be presenting on this so that you can have a far more joined up process from creating an inquiry right through to converting that to a sale. Here to help you solve your digital problems. Everybody's different. Every company does things differently. They'll have a different mix of who does marketing, whether they use agencies and so forth. So it's to help you get through that minefield. And we want to build a community, both of people who need digital marketing, but also providers of digital marketing. And we're and I'm joined by Matt Chandler today, who's part of a thing called the Digital Creatives Group, which is part of the business networking, which Karen Thames runs. So it's about getting you access to the people who know how to fix stuff. So what is Vision to Success? Well, it's the free Wednesday morning workshops, 11 till 12. After Easter, we're going to go to bi-weekly, because it actually takes a lot of content to do it weekly. And I think if we're going to create a community and so forth, I think on top of this, we need, about fortnightly is probably fine. We've underpinned all this with a book, 60,000 words, a book called Drive Sales with Digital Marketing. We've got a couple of online courses, and we plan to expand those later on this year. We've launched, or in the process of launching, a digital marketing strategy implementation app, so that you can, either with assistance or yourself, you can develop your own marketing strategy, and you can start to look at. I was building the list of resources, and it's quite incredible. It's a big screen full of things that you could be doing as a business, and sometimes you don't always think about these things. Creating a marketing community, which we're going to talk about at the end of this, on NetHub, which is the missing link between LinkedIn and a CRM system. And then obviously we do the usual stuff for coaching. We'll do a digital marketing review of your assets, or we'll do the whole thing based on using the app. So this is the book. It's available on Amazon. Just type in Drive Sales with Digital Marketing. Christopher D's just talked about doing punch cards in 1974. Well, slightly ahead of you. I was 1972 when I was using punch cards. And for those of you not young enough to not remember, then you maybe need to Google punch cards, but they were a lot of fun. So we built a book to underpin all this stuff, and I've already got ideas for the second book. This book is about the sort of tools and how you need to be managing stuff. The next book is going to be about the implementation, what things you need to think about when you're implementing leadership skills and etc. So why is LinkedIn important to your business? Well, LinkedIn itself is brand awareness. One of our speakers in the forthcoming lectures, they get a lot of interaction. They're very creative, so they've got some very creative posts going out, and they get a lot of interaction just from that without doing anything else. So it can be there to raise brand awareness. You can share your expertise and get engagement. So we see a lot of traffic when we post thought leadership articles for clients onto LinkedIn. We even though sort of views and so forth have dropped, we can still pretty much guarantee we'll get quite a bit of traffic from that. Engagement, you can. I've got, as I'm sure you all have, got hundreds of contacts. Well, it's very difficult to sort of keep emailing them, phoning them up and saying, let's have a one-to-one. But if they posted, and if you follow their companies, when they post something, it's really easy to go, oh, click on that. And they can see that. So there's going to be no conversation, but they can show that you're still taking interest in what they do. And so I do recommend certainly following all your active clients or customers who are important to you on LinkedIn. It doesn't take, if you're following them and if you've got the right hashtag set up, which we'll talk about later, it's really easy. It's a 5-minute job in the morning. There are groups, although I have to say we've got one and it's tumbleweed blowing through it. Facebook groups is probably the one where if you want interaction, you'll get more interaction. Or we'll talk about the new NetHub communities, which will I think replace that. And then, as we've done here, events. Everybody's familiar with Zoom, everybody's comfortable with it, and I say we're now with a simple piece of technology called Restream. We're out on YouTube, we're out on Facebook, and we're also there on LinkedIn as well. And people can interact that way. Thanks, Christopher, for sharing your frustrations with punch card machines. What you used to do with a punch card machine, you had a deck of cards, and then you put them in, and then every so often it just sprayed them back out at you again. Real fun process. Okay, so why is LinkedIn so important, and why does it work? Well, you've got 740 million people on it for a start, and I think it tends to be used by more, the larger demographic of the 46 to 55-year-olds. So if you're after those hard-to-get people who are guarded by gatekeepers, then this is, as far as I can see it, unless you use quite a sophisticated telephone approach, then like we had to do in the old days, then basically this is the easiest and quickest route to get to whoever you need to speak to. And when you've got as many contacts as I have, because you've got the 6 degrees of freedom, in theory, you can get to the Queen or the President of the United States. I was one step away from Obama at one point, but that's before he sort of locked down his LinkedIn before he became president. But so you can get pretty close to people you need to know. And 61 million senior decision makers on there, and 40 million senior level influencers, and 40 million decision makers. Those numbers are increasing all the time, and it's quite fun sometimes when you go to see a client and they've not got much of a LinkedIn presence. They go, I've been trying to get through to person X at X, Y, and Z company, and I go, okay, let's give them their name and let's set them up. And 3 seconds later, I've given them information that it's taken them months to try and find out. So it does work, but it does need perseverance, and you do need to invest time in it to make it work. We're going to be talking about business and personal pages because they do make a difference. We're going to be talking about how to make connections, engagement, and also, social proof. Okay, a key principle in marketing: you've got to be where your customers are. And if you're selling to businesses and selling to any reasonable size business, a bit harder when you're selling to one person business. But anybody probably five employing 5 people and over are likely to have a LinkedIn presence. Maybe not huge, but they're likely to have one. And more so these days. A few years ago, when I was working for Vistage, which is a global peer group networking group for CEOs, typically 5 million to 100 million turnover, I'd say about 25% of the companies who existed had a presence. I'd say that would be a lot higher these days. You still get blank or very limited profiles for some business owners. But I think in a few years' time, if you've not got that kind of presence, it's a bit like not having a website, really. Somebody somewhere in the business should be, promoting the business on LinkedIn. So why does it work? Well, one of the things. So HubSpot, we're now a user of HubSpot CRM. They do huge amounts of research on these things, and we're going to be talking about a thing called conversational marketing. Not this, hey, I'm going to sell you something, I connect, 3 minutes, 3 seconds later, they're then trying to pitch, link building, SEO, or pensions or whatever. That's not conversational marketing. That's not finding out what people want. So the key elements of conversational marketing is the conversations happen in their time. So if you're an early bird, you might respond to such things first thing in the morning, or it might be late at night, or it might be some Saturday or Sunday morning. We do use a bit of technology. We don't completely automate it, and so conversations are scalable. You can talk to a lot of people. When I was, we do that for clients. We're handling multiple conversations with them, and and you can keep track of these conversations and so forth. I did have somebody, because I've been doing this for quite a long time, I have had people come back after several years saying, oh, hi, yeah, great to connect. It's a bit weird. You have to then try and figure out what the hell the conversation was about, because things have moved on. So how is the buyer's journey changing? So one of the things that's happened with sort of the whole sales process is because customers, prospects, and so forth can do a lot of search before they speak to you. The salesperson is coming later on into the sales conversation. And so you need to use digital tools to be at the head of that conversation. And so if you're selling to businesses, you've got to have your website up, you've got to have your LinkedIn company page up, you've got to have, your own profile up to date and looking ship shape, posting regular articles, maybe once a week, once a month, something that shows that your profile's alive. And so we've talked quite a few times about the marketing funnel, the awareness, acquisition, engagement, conversion stage. And the idea is that you try and engage with everybody at these stages. So according to HubSpot, LinkedIn is 277% more effective for lead generation than Facebook and Twitter. It does depend on what you're trying to do. But it's, and I noticed on Instagram that people are doing less sort of lead generation via it. It's more an advertising platform. And so LinkedIn is the only time you're going to have that kind of conversation. And if you need to be talking, in order to get a sale, you need to be talking to decision makers wherever they are in the company's food chain. But if you want to be talking to people who can buy your products, then there's a good chance they're going to be on LinkedIn. So when do the buyers want to connect with a salesperson? Well, according to HubSpot, 19% at awareness stage. I'm not convinced about that, because to be honest, I would never contact a salesperson until I'd done quite a bit of research, unless I knew exactly what I wanted and was going for it. Then at consideration stage, you probably start to engage. You've identified what your problem is, because half the time when you go onto Google and you're starting to explore a problem, you don't actually know what problem is you're solving. And then at the consideration stage, you're now starting to identify suppliers and so forth. And then if you're really sure, you might just go, right, okay, I just need to speak to a couple of people. And so 20%, but most people are engaging at the consideration stage. Once they've identified a supplier, once they've identified that you can solve a problem, they want to find out then, can you really help me? Got to be warned. I mean, you've probably all been approached by lead generation experts, specialists, whatever you want to call them, on LinkedIn, saying, "Hey, we can get you, leads and all this sort of stuff." Well, actually, there's no silver bullet. There's no silver bullet in digital marketing. I think Neil Patel, I don't know anybody, if any of you follow him, but is what I would regard as the world's guru when it comes to digital marketing. He is more search engine optimization, but he does know a lot of stuff. And a few years ago, you could do a campaign on one channel and hey, it'd be successful. Not anymore. It's all multi-channel, and it's all about creating a system and making sure that all parts of that system actually work. So a couple of old books, actually. Well, one's an old book and one's a new book I'm going to talk about. So because I always like to think that whatever we do is based on sound tested theories, proven theories. And so the first one is spin selling. It's really old. It's 1980s. And here, this sort of spin stands for establish the buyer's current situation, identify problems that the buyer's faces that your product solves. And the idea is basically, and then you look at what are the implications. Now, obviously, to do this process, you need to be either in a Zoom call or in a one-to-one. But it's doing a diagnostic. It's trying to get inside the person's shoes, trying to understand how big their problem is. Because we've all been with clients and they've said, oh yeah, you can solve my problem. And then when we start digging deeper, well, actually their problem's not that big and they don't have the budget. So it's about, before you commit too many resources, is to identify how big their problem is, how much of a pain it is, whether you can actually solve that cost effectively, because if your cost of your solution is bigger than their problem, it's not going to happen, is it? So you need to work out that, and you can use that process to qualify people out, so that you're only spending your valuable time and resources on people who have got a budget, who have got a problem that you can solve, and that your solution is is more cost effective than the problem you're trying to solve. So in terms of the sort of the modern, so that's a really old theory, but I think I personally still think it still holds. It's a diagnostic sell, and you're looking to identify whether the person can pay for it or not. In terms of so there's Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of the things that quite sort of one of the elements of that is seek to understand before seeking to be understood, and that's the whole concept of any sort of network. If you think you go to a networking event, you don't go, hey, do you want to buy my digital marketing agency? You ask about the weather, you ask about how's business, you ask about sort of what are the challenges at the moment, what's keeping them awake at night, etc. So there's that discovery element, the find, and then and as you're talking to them, you can start to ask, when it says educate, it doesn't have to be, like I'm doing here, sort of giving you the theory. You can be asking better and better questions, funnel questions. So if you say, well, how's business? Oh, God, I've not got many leads coming in. So I'll say, oh, how's your marketing working? I won't say I'm an agency. I'll say, well, how is your marketing working? And then you can ask, oh, and they say, oh, we're sort of, once we get a lead, we're fine. So, okay, how's your lead generation element of your marketing working? And you're slowly driving down to where their pain lies. And at that point, they're going to engage with you, because you're listening, you're asking questions, then they're talking, and you're listening. 2 ears, 1 mouth. I'm sure you've all heard of that. And you're sort of building a model in your head as to what their problem really lies. And as you ask more, dig for the pain and the thing that's really bugging them, which is where you're coming into the fact that the spin side of things, where you are trying to find out if that's the pain they really want to solve. So So you have this engagement, and then you can obviously develop conversation. And at that point, hopefully it ends up in either a Zoom call or an in-person meeting. So this is the book that we've used as our, if you like, go-to theory behind all of what we do and with our clients. So one of the things that for lead generation, engagement is key. You need to have that curious head on. If you're into making things or an engineer and so forth, you've already got that problem solving, thing. And then during the process, you need to give them insights. Well, actually, if when you're talking to them, well, how do you do lead generation? Oh, I don't really know, really. I'm sort of struggling. Well, okay. So have you looked at LinkedIn? And they go, oh yeah, it's just full of rubbish. Okay. Have you looked at conversational marketing and things like that? And you slowly sort of providing insights into how they could solve a problem. You're never going to solve the problem. Well, you might do if it's really simple, but then they're not going to pay for that. But if it's more complex, then you're into more of a conversation. Shareable content. A number of times we've had a conversation with somebody, so I really need to know about X, Y, and Z. So rather than, say we're going into a long description about something, you just send them a link. So you've got all these articles lined up of how to do various things, so that you can spend more time in the conversation and not in actually educating them, but still providing those insights. There's a book called The Challenger Sale, which is not on the slide deck, which is all about that. It's all about being the educator, being sort of, well, not the teacher, because that implies a different relationship, but somebody who's helpful and somebody who can educate. And they build trust as an expert. And that's why we've written the book. That's why we do these workshops. That's why we're going to get other people on to do workshops. It's all about developing, that trust. And then obviously being found when you're needed. There's no point not having some people are, badly SEO'd website and so forth. You need to be for them found. You need to be on social media and so forth. So when they're trawling through things, they can find you easily. So a few LinkedIn fundamentals. It is integrated with your digital marketing, does need to connect with your social media, does need to be, you do need an effective profile, a professional photograph. We'll be talking about that in a minute. Articles and posts that engage, going on other people's profiles and sort of liking them and so forth. Connect with your target audience. That can be manually or it can be systemed. Put stuff out there that educates. You're not going to solve their problems with just reading a social media post. So don't be afraid to give stuff out. And then obviously measure your performance. And within company pages and so forth, you can see that. You can see how many views and things you've had. And then create a process and repeat it. So typically, I put this in just to sort of give you an idea that you can go into quite a lot of detail in terms of how you connect things up. And in a workshop, sometime towards the summer, we'll be telling you about things like Candy and so forth, where we can actually see who's on the website in quite some detail. And then that coupled with the CRM, coupled with LinkedIn, you can then form a picture of whether that person's interested or not, so that you only have conversations with people who actually have got the problem, because you need to be qualifying people out. There's a lot of people who will attend these workshops and they probably won't do any business with us. But for me, that's great, because they're spreading, they're better educated to use the process and so forth. We just want to be talking to those people who want to talk to us about, our other services. But we do this so that, as many people, we can help as many people as possible. So you end up building something like this as a process in order to support your LinkedIn activities. You think, well, I only want to do a bit of LinkedIn. It's going to take ages. Well, actually, if you do a little bit, a step at a time, and you systemize each little bit. So, how you do an article, how you do some posts, and so forth. It's surprising what you can do. It looks complicated, but it's not. It's not onerous. So this is workshop hours, a slide out of a workshop. So if you look at the slides, this is a rhetorical question, or you can type into chat, which picture would you go for? Obviously the answer is B, because the whole picture's face is lit up. It's got a professional shirt. Thanks, Sarah. Logo, really. These are cool shots, but humans need to see the eyes. This is unfortunate where he's got his hands in his pockets and so forth, and that's completely unacceptable. I'd rather see a logo than nothing else. LinkedIn profile. Get it as best as you can. Find somebody, if you can't do it yourself, find somebody who can create you a banner. We regularly change ours, so that's not my banner anymore. So here we've got what we do and so forth. We keep changing it. Sort of, this is keyword. We've got our critical keywords, and it's now changed because my role in the business has changed. So don't be afraid to do this. I quite like the vertical bars so that you can have. So my new one is my job title, which is managing director, and then we've got a bar, and then says some of these other things that we do. Do think about your keywords. We talked about keywords in a few workshops ago. In the text, the about bit, make sure that you are talking about what you do. This is, I know LinkedIn is used as a job board, but if you're selling on LinkedIn, if you're wanting to engage with people on LinkedIn, it's not about you. It's about what you do for your customers. It's about your customers. They don't want to know that you're that you're great at leadership and all these other skills and so forth. They're not interested in that. They're interested in what you as a business can do for them as a customer. And you need to make sure your keywords are in there. A few years ago, you used to get found on Google with it, but it's a lot harder these days because there's so much competition. But get it as best as you can. Make sure you've answered all the questions. In the more section, it's got under contact data, contact info. Make sure you've got the publicly available contact information. Surprising, actually, as your business evolves, how if you don't keep it up to date, it can lapse behind. I'm not a great fan. You'll see some of these helping businesses, get more leads or whatever. As soon as somebody tries to connect with me with that kind of logo, I know that they're trying to sell to me. So I just disconnect. So I don't connect. So I know in some LinkedIn courses they do say, sort of put the value of what you do. I prefer this approach where you sort of use your sort of job title and keywords. Regular posts, and be prepared to do things a little bit differently as well. So in a workshop that I ran quite a few months ago now, we were playing with the Mentimeter, the presentation software, and one of the guys spotted that he could enter things multiple times. So we were talking about the biggest challenge of the concern at the moment, and he managed to get paper cups as the biggest concern, only because but I then wrote a post about it because it was interesting, it was different, and it warns anybody who's doing using Mentimeter to make sure that they can't enter multiple times. Always use hashtags when putting posts up, and if you can, name 3 or 4 people. Don't overly stuff it, because I'm sure LinkedIn's not that keen on that. But if you mention 5 or 6 people who you think might share it and so forth, then immediately LinkedIn then immediately tells them that somebody's done that, and they go, oh right, okay, and they'll like and share, etc. You've got about an hour in which to get this stuff engaged and get an hour or so to get engagement. And then LinkedIn will see it. Oh, these guys are doing something really interesting, and then they'll put it out to the big world. If you don't get that engagement early doors, LinkedIn won't promote it on their feed, and you'll be stuck. You won't go anywhere. And these days, it's really important because to get views is getting harder. Well, it all changed start of lockdown, start of the COVID. Before that, you could get 2,000 views on a post quite easily. Now, to get 2,000, you've got to be quite creative. But it still doesn't negate doing it. We still see traffic coming through onto people's websites. It's just a little bit more frustrating. It is worth thinking about having a plan. Don't randomly shove stuff onto LinkedIn. Go, oh, what I'm going to do today. Dedicate a couple of hours, maybe at the beginning of the week, or maybe a half a day at the beginning of the month, and just work out what you're going to do during the month. You've probably heard of Motivational Mondays. You've probably heard of Throwback Thursdays and Fun Fridays. LinkedIn is becoming more like Facebook. It's one of those things we're going to be talking later on at the end of this workshop about something that that's going to disrupt that. But yeah, just accept the fact and have a go. If you have no shorter time, just keep it to thought leadership articles. Those are the primary things, and then the others, can help to create more engagement and add more personality. But if you're short of time, then stick to the expert thought leadership articles. So what types of posts do you say? Well, obviously posts about sharing your expertise, blogs for articles from your website. LinkedIn doesn't really like people going off LinkedIn to a website, but it still works. Case studies, human stories about what you've done for clients. People love a story. That's how we're programmed to receive information. You can share other people's posts and articles if it's interesting and so forth, so to help educate your audience. We use it a lot to promote these events because and I think LinkedIn's going to make that easier as well. So we found that really useful. Obviously, you do your own PR, new products, awards, recruits. I would say quite a lot of posts I see are about people winning awards and so forth, and achieving goals and so forth. Success stories. You might want to share sector-related stories, although I suspect that's dying away. And then charitable projects always get good traffic. People like to see things doing well. Okay, quite complicated, but if you're short of thinking, gosh, wonder what the people are thinking, then answerthepublic.com is a brilliant tool for finding out what the questions people are asking. So you just go to that. It's for the more industrial clients and so forth. It's probably not that relevant, but if yours is coaching or HR or something like that, sort of more generic, you probably find that more useful. So if you type digital marketing in there, or so this is social media. This is all the stuff people talk about in social media. So which version? So it's interesting. We sort of we've got Sales Navigator, obviously, and if we do a search on the free version, the results are pretty poor these days. They used to be half decent, but they are pretty poor. I was showing this to a client. They're asking this example where they've been trying to search for something for 2 to 3 months and couldn't find the name. And whereas I just sort of did it on my free, on the sort of the normal version, it didn't work. Put it on Sales Navigator, boom, came up with the name straight away. So if you're serious about it, you do need to do the Sales Navigator, which is $59.99 plus VAT. Posting onto company page is a bit frustrating because it has the better stats. So what you do every month, you need to invite 100 people to like your page. And in order to restream, as we discovered a few weeks ago, that page has to have 150 people who have liked it. We tried to do it on the Vision to Success page, which Rachel had set up. We couldn't figure out why we couldn't connect via Restream. And then we realised, after a bit of research, LinkedIn couldn't tell us. We found it on a help page that is restricted to 150 plus. So it is important you get people to like your page, but you do get better stats. And so you can invite your connections to like your page. I've not heard of anybody getting hacked off through people doing that. So I would encourage you to do that. Company page stats, as I say, you get far better stats. You can see what's working, what's not working. And if you've got somebody who's doing your marketing for you, then I'd certainly encourage them to provide that information to you, or learn how to look at it yourself. Each person, if you're on Sales Navigator, gets a social selling index. I used to have quite a good one because I was on LinkedIn quite a bit, but the team do that, so mine's dropped down a little bit in my own performance, and it ranks you on how well you're connecting and so forth. As I said, LinkedIn events. So this was a LinkedIn event I did with a company called Engage over in the States, and that was great. You get this sort of global audience. You can invite up to 1,000 people. We're getting, I think, do we know how many we've got today, Rachel?
About 12.
Well, yeah, that's growing, and it will grow bigger. And then, of course, it sits on as a post as well. So somebody's asked, so Sarah's asked, would you start adding content to a company page before connects to Phil? Absolutely. Yeah, nobody's going to follow a page that's not got good content on it. You don't need a huge amount. I don't know, 5 or 6 articles. Nobody sort of scrolls back and checks. But if they can see that the page has got a nice banner, it's got some activity on it, don't invite them to a blank page. Make sure it looks pretty. And the great thing about this is that you've raised awareness, and the thing about an event is that it then sits there on the system. LinkedIn ads, a little bit controversial. The conversation ads is where you actually pay to pitch into an inbox. Now, we would never suggest you do that. I've no idea why LinkedIn, where they want people to engage, are allowing people to pay to drop messages in people's inbox. Makes no sense. No idea. So I definitely not recommend that, because that's that's not conversational marketing. I think putting things in the feed work. I'm not convinced about these two on the side. These personal adverts and so forth. I have never clicked on those, but I have taken interest in sponsored stuff in the main feed. So yeah, I'm not convinced about these. LinkedIn ads is expensive. You do need to manage it really carefully. So reaching out. So first of all, as we've talked in previous workshops, buyer persona, know who you're targeting. This works particularly well on LinkedIn. So for example, I'm a kayak coach, and we're looking to do a few team building days for corporates in the Shropshire area. So I was able to say, right, okay, I'm looking for training companies who might be interested in reselling what we're going to do. Geography is Shropshire, the sectors, training companies, company size. So I went for a small companies that, big company won't talk to me, I think 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 size employees. Job title, business managing director, because I want to speak to the boss. Challenges of the pain, well, everybody's working hybrid, everybody's split apart. Wouldn't it be great to get people doing an activity that was not work related, sticking on the water, etc. And I don't need that many. We only need about 4 or 5 companies who may be interested. So you can see really clearly focused. It's a 2-minute job in Sales Navigator. Found about, I think, 30 odd people, sent them all, connect with them, sent a personal note. Hey, you're interested in connecting? And a few of them have connected, and then hopefully we'll have I only did it the other day, so hopefully I'll have a conversation with those guys. It is a bit of a numbers game as well. There's a figure of 1% or 2%. That's in the old days when you used to do a big mail shot, you'd expect 2% response. If you drive traffic to a e-commerce site, about 2% of those will buy from you. If you do an email shot, the open rate might be about 20%, and then the click-through rate will be between 2 and 5%. So it is a numbers game in digital, whatever you do. I think it comes down to the size of your audience. In your audience, you've got a bunch of suspects, maybe 80-odd%, who are not ready. There may be sort of possibly have the pain, but you don't know. And then about 20% may be interested, and then about sort of 5 or 10% may actually be in the market for what you actually do. So that's why the response rates are as they are. It's just that it's where people are on that buying cycle. So don't take it personally. If you're getting between 1 and 5% actually completing and going through to an order or to a conversation, then that's about normal. So to start a conversation, search for individuals on the profile, connect with them, and then start a question. How's business? So I need to change this slide by the looks of it. It says how you cope with the pandemic. It should now say, you could be saying, how do you cope with this supply shortage? If you think they're recruiting because you've seen the post that they're recruiting and so forth. But how's business is the more generic one, which hopefully will become the norm, back to the norm again. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment. So conversation marketing, social selling, it's the same as networking. You don't start pitching as soon as you meet them. You ask nice open questions to qualify your prospects. Use what and how, not why. Why is interrogative. Be specific. Keep digging for the pain that you can fix, and only close on a call to action when you can help them. So at the moment, keep it really low commitment. Telephone call, possibly webinar sign up, free app sign up, or a Zoom call. Something that ups them a little bit, but not too much. These slides, by the way, will be available either later on today or first thing tomorrow. So if you're struggling to take notes, it's fine. You can get these later, and then there'll be a recording if you click on free workshops underneath it. There's watch our previous workshops. So make sure you've got clearly so the pro tips and tricks. Clearly define target audience, clearly define pain, do that analysis. What is it that you're trying to fix, and what are they willing to pay for? Make sure you've got a low commitment start to the sales process, either free diagnostic or more questions to get a quote or something like that, or a workshop like this, something like that. And make sure you've got easy access to supporting information. So when we were working with a regional plumbing company, they had a little PDF, and when they'd spoken to somebody, they could and they said, yeah, you're interested? Yeah, okay, I'll send you some more information. Boom, simple PDF to them. I wouldn't really take them to the website, or you can do. I've had instances where a telesalesperson would talk me through elements of the website. That can work, but just think through the whole selling process. Make sure you're up to speed on what you're selling. Try and get social proof on your LinkedIn and so forth. But the key thing is, do not pitch on LinkedIn. The only proviso I'd add to that is what we found when working with construction subcontractors, construction companies, or anything where the customer has a approved supplier list and you don't get past go without getting on it, is to actually just be blunt. If you're approaching contract managers, for example, or buyers, and say, do you have an approved supplier list? We found that the most effective way for certain type. But you're not pitching there, you're just asking it's a request for help. So the future, really excited to tell you about NetHub. If you go to mynethub.com, We've now got our group on NetHub. We developed this website for them. And I'm going to try something I've not done before, see what happens. No, I think I'll check it out. Let's see. Yeah, I thought it might. In the I won't play it now, but in the slide deck, if you download the slide deck, you will see that you can click on this link and it will give you, or if you could just go to the website, go to mynethub.com. It's all free, it's forever free. And if you go to it, we've got a community page. So if you go to services, if you go to Vision Success Services, Vision Success Community, you can, it'll tell you more, but this is the NetHub community. If you log in, if you register and then log in, you can then join that, and we'll be putting added value stuff on there. And so I'm encouraging all the people who I know who are good providers of digital marketing services to be on there. And so then we've got this great community. If you need any help, got any questions, you can ask the group and so forth. So very quickly, we have gone on quite a long time today. So bringing it together, so think about your customer, what will they engage in, think about what you can realistically do, keep it consistent, but you may have to, sort of don't try and go for 7 posts a week if you can't do that. If it's 1 post a week, that's absolutely great. So how many posts can you do? Can you do any video? Video is becoming more and more important. It's probably not critical this year, but probably maybe next year, the year after, we're seeing a lot more companies having to do video, and we having talking about how to do it creatively. How can you add personality? So if you are doing charity events and so forth, that can be a great way of adding personality. Can you engage in other people's posts and say, just think about the hashtags you're connected to on LinkedIn. And we do have an online course, learning at cub-uk.net. Okay, so we are running a tad behind. Let me just, So, anybody got any sort of questions or thoughts?
Hi, Peter. It was just a details one, really. Probably several years ago, I put it was a presentation, like a slide presentation on a kind of. It was an associated sort of feature with LinkedIn. It seems to have disappeared. I guess it just wasn't popular. Is that because it was gone?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone ever looked at my slides.
Yeah,
I guess that's fine.
Anymore. They did. They have allowed you to add media to your LinkedIn profile. That disappeared some time ago. If you get the slide deck, save it as a PDF, and then stick it onto your profile. If there are things that people would find useful, you can do that. Okay, does anybody else want to ask any questions? Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Glenn. Okay, I'll bring it to a close then. Thank you very much for taking part, and I look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be talking about email marketing and how you can use that, because email is not dead. If you use it right, email can generate traffic, etc. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.